Welcome to Cine Here, where you come for all your media needs. My name is Ray.
It's your boy Nikki Tay.
And today, we are reviewing A Quiet Place.
Directed by John Krasinski, also starring John Krasinski, Emily Blunt, Millicent Simmons, and Noah Jupe. So, John Krasinski, you might know him as Jim Halpert on The Office. You know, before he was giving you his best funny guy routine, and now he ain't saying a damn thing. He ain't saying, because it is a quiet place. You know, it is this world very similar to ours, very, very similar to ours, except that you have to be quiet or else these alien creatures with echolocation, I'm talking bat ears, you know, they hearing you from miles away, will come and kill you without a hesitation or a second thought.
They drop us off in this world, and they kind of take the Cloverfield approach, where they really don't give you any backstory on why the monsters are there,
Nothing.
or why they're even attacking for the most part. So I like the mystery. I love mystery in my suspense/scary movie. So they did do a good job there with the suspense factor of the movie.
I might have actually been on the other side of the fence. I would have liked to know more. Set me up a little bit better. You know, at least give me some rolling Star Wars words across the street saying in the year 2018 aliens landed. Like, give me a little bit of backstory. Give me some meat on this bone before you just have me eat this dinner.
But the meat on the bones in this particular story was all of the subtleties, because really this movie was, like the title says, quiet. There was no words said, nothing but sign language, and a lot of...
At least for the first 40 minutes.
Yeah, definitely really, I wouldn't even say it's slow. I like the pace of the movie as well. But I'm not going to lie to you. You know, being a scary movie enthusiast, I would say, or scary movie buff like I am, I kind of like this approach to the movie in certain parts of it, for sure. Especially when you don't hear anything, but then there you go, the moment is, and now it's in our face. I kind of like that, the subtleties of the movie.
And the film does a good job opposite of some of the bigger names in film this year. You know, Infinity Wars is all about war and loud gadgets and pew pew, you know, lasers on the screen. A Quiet Place takes the subtle approach and emphasizes, you know, creaky floors, a door hinge that should have been oiled, a baby crying, you know. Don't have a cold at this time of the season because...
Or you will die.
Because coughing is dangerous in this world.
And I'm a snorer, so I know I'll be dead first day. They gonna get me out the way.
No sleeping, you know. Marco Beltrami does a great job of setting up the score in a way that emphasizes also these subtle movements that are needed to navigate around the world. Now, Marco Beltrami might not be a name you recognize, but you definitely will recognize his work if you've ever seen a movie called Scream or The Hurt Locker. And so definitely a guy who, you know, not Hans Zimmer, but definitely a guy I would respect when I see his name come across the screen.
But I could say one of my negatives to the movie was actually the music. I kind of would have liked less.
What?
Yeah, because since the movie is so centered on everything being quiet, I didn't even really need the sinister music to get me in the moment, because the quietness of the movie was the moment. Any loud noise, anything that happened in the movie, to me was heightened. I was in my seat like this because I didn't even want to make noise as I watched the movie. So I really didn't need any music to pump me up. I really just needed silence. I think the silence was the best part of the movie. You really want quiet in the theaters as you watch it, because like Nick said, those moments of the doorknob turning too loud, or the steps on the stairwell creaking a little too much, all builds up this really good movie.
Now let's get into what also that means for the movie, and that means that the acting was excellent enough to put you in this world. You know, the acting has now brought you into, now you're experiencing with them. And I think John Krasinski and Emily Blunt, who are married in real life, played an excellent job of being husband and wife and trying to get their kids, I wouldn't say out of the situation, but raising your kids in that situation.
Who are we if we can't protect them? We have to protect them.
It was very believable. It felt like I was watching almost a documentary of sorts, in that, hey, this is this family's life and this is how they're living. And it was, give it up for, come on, Jim Halpert. Come Come on, Jim.
You deserve it.
You deserve it, man. Great job to not only direct, but act in your own movie and do both very well.
But one of the negatives in this movie is actually the same thing that makes this movie really good. It's the silence. I know that sounds crazy, but the same thing that makes this movie really good is also what takes this movie down a little bit for me, because at some point it's almost too much. Because now I'm feeling like, I guess we just so raised in this traditional way of watching movies that we need to hear, sounds and dialogue and people talking, that sometimes in a movie you get to the point where like, just say something. I want to know what you're thinking. I want to know what's going on, because the silence can take a toll on the viewers.
And that's probably a fair point. I would agree. For me, the first 30 minutes of the film may have been too slow for me, but again, it's setting up the environment without loading you down with all of this exposition. Movies nowadays are so comfortable in telling you what's happening, where I think this movie is a fresher breath of air, is that you just get to experience what's happening. There is nobody explaining it. You don't have Morgan Freeman narrating every scene. This is just you in this film, and you are along for the ride, and you better enjoy it, or guess what? You don't have to get back in line. Now, another bright spot in this film, I would say, is the daughter, who is played again by Millicent Simmons, who is actually deaf in real life like she portrays in the film. I thought she did an amazing job adding a lot of depth to that character, having that actual, as you would call it, a disability in real life. She provides a sense of realism to that character, because again, that's something she has to deal with, living in this silent world. And again, Marco does a great job of, when she's on screen, giving you this almost kind of muted tone to the film, kind of portraying how it is to live in what we would consider to be silence if you were also deaf.
The acting in this movie was great, like you said earlier.
Yep.
I don't know if you really pointed that out, but in a movie where you cannot speak, where your actions or acting will have to show to the camera, everybody did a really good job. I liked everybody in this movie, and you really don't get too many movies where everybody acts well, but this is definitely one of them.
Granted, there's only 4 people, but it's still good job.
But Emily, by far, was the best out of the bunch.
Emily. You know how I feel about Emily.
You love her.
Emily Blunt is amazing. I mean, one of the most versatile actresses in Hollywood. I cannot wait to see the Mary Poppins movie she'll have next. I mean, this woman can do it all.
And she did do it all in this movie. Now, you can say that she has some of the more pivotal scenes, so maybe she got to really show her acting chops. But I'm not going to take that away. She did a good job, but so did everybody. So I don't want to take anything away from everybody. Everybody did a phenomenal job. She just stood out among the rest. A Quiet Place delivered on a lot of good points. A lot of things that you want in a suspense/scary movie. I would say a little bit more suspenseful, but you cannot definitely take away from the part that there are scary parts in this movie.
Little easy jump scares.
Definitely easy jump scares. So I really did enjoy this movie for the most part. Yes, it started off a little bit slow, but they did a good job at building up this world that I would love to see again. And all of the characters played their roles perfectly. So with me saying all those things, I will have to give this movie a 7.75.
Oh!
Now, I quite didn't make the 8 or 9 mark, but this is just due to, like I said earlier, the same thing that made this movie good is the same thing that made this movie bad. It was the silence, and it can get a little bit overbearing. But the movie is still definitely worth watching, so you should definitely go check it out.
The typical slasher horror film was all the rage in the 90s and early 2000s. We are now in a time where the intellectual and artistic horror films are what the people actually want, and I think A Quiet Place delivers this, especially if you're a fan of the horror genre. With all that being said, I will give this movie a 7.8, very similar to what my co-host Ray said. That completes the review of A Quiet Place. As always, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you can see all of our reviewing content. And don't forget, you've seen it here.
Wow, this movie was yeah, it was quiet. I'm still trying to keep quiet. I'm scared this movie gonna jump through the window.
Oh my God. That one scene he ran through the cornfield, I'm like, no! We've come too far! We've come too far!
Running through the city with my woes.
With my woes.
You know how it go.
How would you do that if it was quiet? You had to be quiet.
You gotta make the face. It's all
You
about
do
the
have.
face. It's about the face you make.
Nah, see, you having fun. I'm scared. Because this sex is dangerous.
Lord, I'm breaking it down.
And don't forget, you've seen it here.